Welcome to a slightly different podcast today, the SMT Classic Conversations. So, since the launch of the SMT podcast last year, I've gained many new listeners and specifically a large amount from India and other countries. So, with that in mind, I knew I had some great conversations from a previous podcast I had called the British Asian Podcast. And I thought it'd be nice to share these again from time to time and label these as the SMT Classics. The first of these podcasts, one I recorded in 2016 with the legendary UK Bhangra band Achanak, who at the time were about to release their first album in a very, very long time called Game Set and Nach. And although obviously we spoke about the album, it was also a great conversation about the genesis of one of the greatest Bhangra bands ever to hit the scene. I was joined on the podcast with Ninder Johal, Vijay Achanak and Johal. And this was too good a podcast just to leave on my hard drive and not let new listeners listen to this. So, without further ado, let's listen to the SMT Classics with Achanak. Enjoy.
What we were talking about earlier, and it's got to be that live feel, and we authenticated it.
We said it was you.
Yeah. You know what I did, Vijay? I put the phone in the other bedroom, and you could still hear it from there. With
Okay, Achanak. I've got to say, this is probably officially one of the coolest days ever I've had. Not only has Vijay made me coffee, brought me cake, I've heard the album. And you are now officially the British Asian Podcast official band.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, sir.
That's okay.
Privilege.
But let's introduce you one by one. We'll start from Vijay.
Okay, I'm Vijay Singh from the band Achanak, and I do the vocals.
And Ninder?
Yeah, Ninder Johal. I allegedly play the tabla. And my other function in the role is to manage the band, and I'm the band's record company.
And next to you, the young man next to you, Ninder, you want to introduce him?
Yeah, the young man next to me started his career with Achanak when he was 10, and he happens to be my son, and he's been largely responsible for producing half the album.
Fantastic.
And his name is
Johal.
Aman.
Johal.
It's lovely to meet you. So you're a young guy.
Yeah.
I'm a lot older than you, and to me, Achanak are legends, right? And to be sitting in this room with them is a proper. I'm completely overwhelmed. When I knocked on the door, I said, "Vijay, I'm a bit of a fan, actually."
Yeah, he did. Those were his first.
the first words.
Took me quite back. Okay. Just come in.
Just come in, sit down, man. Achanak hasn't come out suddenly this time. You've been away, have you? Or is that a fallacy? Where do we want to start with this? Do we want to start with when Ninder met Vijay?
Go on,
Yeah.
you tell the story. Go on, you tell the story, Vij.
Well, actually, I was in my front room, and Ninder knocked on the door. I opened the door, and he came in, and he said, "Look, Vij, there is a show
That's right.
Which I'm interested in, and would your band, because I was actually in a band called Rasila, and he said, would you come down and perform? And I sat him down, made him the usual tea and all that kind of stuff, and it was it was one of those conversations where you didn't know where the conversation was going, because almost Ninder was actually on the periphery, sort of say, is there any way I could sort of play a bit of tabla as well?
Trying to get in, wasn't it?
Yeah. And at that point, I was saying, and I don't think I shared this with Ninder, but what the hell is he on about? He doesn't know, the right way up with the tablas, let alone play them. I wasn't impressed, put it this way.
Right, okay.
At that particular time. And, I was, as one does, and I said, look, don't worry about it. Yeah, we can actually get you to play for one of the tracks and all this kind of stuff. And I was more interested in the show. I think it was...
Aston University.
Yeah, Aston University. Yeah, that's where the show was.
I was doing my postgraduate there.
Yeah. And this is how we met.
So basically, I said to Vijay, I will only book your band provided you let me play karaoke style, I suppose.
Yeah.
Provided I can play in the band for one track, therefore I meet the contract that Aston University said to me, which is you have to bring something to the show that represents your culture.
And like an idiot, I agreed.
Yeah. So Vijay, did you have to call the other members up, say, look, we've got a gig, right, but we're going to have to let this guy...
Yeah, and they were horrified.
Yeah.
They said, "Banda kaun hai?"
He's not giving up.
Yeah. But I said, look, this is these are the conditions. And they said, well, if it means that we need to bring up the Bajat Tolki out, and I think we can sort of tolerate him. And that's how we met. And it was, I mean, at the time, you never realized that this is going to be something which we're going to sustain over all these years.
Yeah. Little did you know that meeting and feeding him cake and eventually letting him...
Actually, can I say something?
Yeah.
Your hospitality was not as generous as it is today.
Well, yeah.
I mean, hospitality
I'm not
today is
getting involved in
generous.
this.
Yeah.
I was actually under instructions.
Not to feed me or to give me a drink.
Actually the other way around. Because as I was buying the cake, you were actually on the phone telling me what to buy.
So there you go. So that was the start of Achanak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that meeting's gone down in history now, At that time, you probably didn't know, Did you think you guys would have stayed together? Did you think it was a one-off, Vijay?
I definitely thought it was one-off.
Yeah, one-off, yeah.
One thing, and I will say this, and I never actually said this again to Ninder, is that Ninder had this kind of... his passion came across. He actually just wanted to play. He didn't care about the money or anything else. And I think that came across really, really well. And it was nice, and it felt quite refreshing for someone, to be into the music for the right reasons and not just look at the dollar sign. And in some cases, it happens a lot now than it did before, because there was a lot of bands out there that they just wanted to perform. They just wanted to just play. And money wasn't the main reason or the driving factor. And I think it was very refreshing to see Ninder at that time, a very young Ninder. Yeah. And he was like, it was like a little rotty biting at your sort of, heels.
He's not giving up, is he?
Yeah. And he wasn't. And one way or another, and now, it's like earlier trains, that he was adamant that he was going to play.
So there you go.
Yeah. So you remember it like it was the other day.
Yeah. It was in Smethwick. We used to live in Smethwick, and that's where I met him.
I can vividly remember the day.
So how did you... Ninder, how did you then, convince them to keep you? Because you never left then, did you? Or did you nick Vijay?
No. What happened then? The short story really is that somehow, I don't know how, they were sort of said, well, he's all right actually. He's not brilliant, but he's all right. I'll tell you what, let's just keep him on. He seems keen. He seems keen. He seems keen.
Yeah, he was.
He seems keen. Let's keep him on. So I stayed on, and amazingly, so I fulfilled my dream, which is to play for a band. And then, of course, we had this. We decided that perhaps we should record some tracks.
Yeah,
we'd done the wedding circuit by then, so we sort of knew. And so Vijay said, "I've got this wicked track called Lakanu Halade." So we went into a studio and set about recording it.
Was you Achanak then? Or was you...
No, we weren't.
No, we
Right.
weren't. In fact, what happened was that it was my brother's wedding, and we hired a LARP on, on his wedding. And I actually sang that track.
That's right.
And a LARP just played, when, Sarwalo, someone just gets up and he sings. And I was going to do this track, and I just got up and I said, "Lakanu halade ajiran kanila," and the place went absolutely berserk. And obviously, everyone thought, that he's the groom's brother, so they're going to do that.
Yes, right.
Right.
But it wasn't. It was actually the melody and the track.
Yeah.
And I just literally got up, and Achanak is a brilliant. Alap is a brilliant band.
Yeah.
And obviously they picked it up, and they really sort of loved it, and said, "Oh, wicked, wicked, wicked." And that was the very, very first performance of Lakanu Halade. And then it was almost like having conversations with Ninder. Ninder said, we ought to record this. This is really good. I said, okay. And then obviously at that time I was very pally with the Alpuri. This lyricist,
Right.
And a lot of the tracks I actually co-wrote with him. So I used to spend a lot of time in his house, sitting there, just creating and banding about ideas, about lyrics and stuff. And then what he did was he changed 3 lines in there. 3 lines he changed, and then he said, "Look, I'm going to have to put your name and my name in there," and that's how. Both of our names are actually in the track.
Right.
And then I remember running to we didn't have a start to the track. We had no idea how we wanted to start the track.
Well, the track was recorded,
Yeah,
and then you came up with this berserk idea.
Yeah. And then what happened was...
The knock on the door.
Do you remember that track, "You Can't Touch This"?
Yeah.
And it was that's all he said. And then he, and there was like rapping, the whole thing about rapping and stuff like that. And I thought...
Well, let me stop there. Let me then you can pick that up. So it's a knock on the door. We're going to the studio. We finished Lakanu Halade. At least that's what I thought. So knock on the door. Vijay comes in. I said, "Right, we're off to go and finish the track off." Actually, he said, "I have an idea." He said, I said, "The idea is," he said, "I've got an idea for Lakanu Halade at the start." Although, listen, I'll have a listen. So remember, the tables are turned. He's now keen, and I'm very reticent.
Yeah.
So it's flipped now. So I said, okay. He said, "I've got something to play you, and I'll tell you what I've got. Now take it on, Vij."
Yeah. And then what happened? I said, "Well, why don't we, instead of putting a music," because all the tracks that were coming out just had a music bit at the start, and then you got into the track. I said, "Why don't we just do some rap?" And at that stage, I was like, I was shot down. That was it,
But I did say, let's have a go.
Yeah,
Let's try it. I said, let's try it.
Look, he said, "Beat on your head, Vij," but
Let's try it.
let's try it. And
People hate it. It's your fault.
Yeah. But obviously they love it. Then obviously we all sort of... That's how... And har koi aake tu soni hai, that's how it all...
That's how it kicked off.
Yeah, and that's how it kicked off.
And then what we had to do was, that had to be then almost backwards, had to be inserted at the front.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the rap started, the music with... And then, of course, the problem then was we had 2 bits to the track. Yeah. So we had a rap and we had the track, but nothing to link it. So we then had to link it. And that's where the mandolin piece came, ding, 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 because that was the link, because it was never thought that we would have a rap at the front.
At the beginning, yeah.
So because Vijay came on the 99th hour, because he's such a keen fellow. So we put it in, it sounded great, and then we said, hold on, we need to link the 2. And that's when the mandolin piece, ding, 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 ding.
And them two, your rap and the mandolin piece are like in Bhangra history, ain't they?
Absolutely.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Out of something last minute, everyone knows that start.
I mean, even now, sir, everyone says, "Har koi aake tu soni hai."
Yeah.
Those 2-3 words are emblazoned in everyone's mind. That's how they remember the track.
And I think the other thing it showed was that we were able to accommodate other people's creativity. So whilst I fell about laughing when he first suggested the idea, but we went for it. We tried it. We worked. Then we had a problem between the 2 bits, connected that, and hey presto, we had a hit.
Yeah, and you as a band, right, as a band should be. So you're working together.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one guy producer, whatever he says goes.
No.
So that song came out, and you made a video, right? And the whole the video itself was one of the first videos.
Yes, it was legendary. I remember I was doing my first degree then, and I was sitting down in my room and I was doing my work and I had the radio on, And you know, when you got these radio stations, I don't know whether it's pirate or it was just
pirate.
pirate radio station. And the guy goes, you know, he did a really, really fantastic introduction. He said, look, I've had so many requests, I can't mention everyone's names, but all I'm going to ask you to do is to move your chairs, your sofa sets and everything, because there is no way you're going to sit on the sofa and everything. And I was like working away. I had no idea it would have, it was going to be locking. And then he goes, right, here it comes. Brace yourselves, move the furniture to one side because you will be busting your moves on the dance floor. And then Harko Yake Tusune, and it just blew me away. That was the first time I actually felt the enormity of the track sort of grasping communities, and obviously then the country and then the world.
Yeah.
Eventually. And it just went from strength to strength. And it was Lakanu Halade, those few words, and Harko Yake Tu Soni, Dil Mere Nu Hai Tu Moni.
Which nearly didn't make it.
Yeah, which nearly didn't make it. But then in history, how many times have things happened where they nearly didn't make it, but they made it. And because they made it, they had an impact and changed.
And you talk about the video, and that was interesting. So what you're going to imagine is the album's ready. Achanak hasn't been launched yet because we're still playing with another band. The other band actually thought Lakanu wasn't that good.
Right.
So at that point, we decided, oops, okay, well, they don't want it. We better set our own band up. If you remember, I mentioned this. And then we set about, as the album took shape, we set about recruiting people. And then, and also, if you recall, I mentioned the fact on the eve of the video shoot, we recruited our last member.
Right.
Keyboard player. And I remember going to see him, having tracked him at a wedding, thought he was good. It was a bit like scouting a footballer, actually. Same process. And then I said, right, you're in? He said, yeah, I'm in. I said, fine, see you in the morning. He said, why? I said, 4 o'clock, we got a video shoot. So you can then imagine how surreal it was then to go down in a van to a place in London and actually be involved in a video shoot. And yet nobody had ever done videos. Now, of course, it's commonplace. But then we spent, I think it was about 14, 16 hours shooting the video. And the concept of a video was brand new.
Yeah. So where did that come from? Where did you think, well, let's make a video?
Well, again, at that point, we were doing the artwork. The artwork was, if you recall, us standing in shadows.
Yeah.
So I think what we set out to do from the very early day was not rely purely on the music. And we set about trying to get all the other facets.
So marry the visual with the music kind of thing.
So the marketing was important, the cover design was important, how the album was put together was important, how it was promoted was important. So all the ingredients came together, and we didn't just rely. We knew we had a great track, and it's probably the only time in my lifetime that when a track went out to CD, we actually knew we had a hit. I mean, that's very rare to actually walk out of a duplicating plant with a CD in your hand and saying, you know something, this is going to do some damage. You never know. And because of that, we had the faith to then invest in. You remember we bought keyboards?
Yeah, you were saying,
the van and everything. And it was a huge punt. But we set out to be totally against the grain and totally different. And the music was then one element of the entire package.
The whole
and that's
thing.
where the video came in.
So what do you think it was about this song that you're so confident that...
I think it was simple. The lyrics are simple, and it's just Lakanu Halade Ajaronkani Lade. And it just grabbed a whole generation and sort of said, look, here are the good times. And it allowed you to escape whatever is in your life and actually just Lakanu Hala Teronkanula.
Yeah.
That kind of scenario. And people did. They flooded the dance floor. In fact, all the DJs used to say that this is our track. We use
when they're in
to
trouble.
Get people, to get people, on the dance floor, because we know for that. Like Ninder is saying that even before the album was, we walked away with the CD. We knew that we had this kind of mega track, and I think the DJs had that in their arsenal where they'd put Lakanu and just get people on the dance floor. And it was just a really, a track with a feel-good factor. And it was like saying, escape, this is your escape now from reality into this kind of zone where you just need to be yourself and just enjoy life.
So as a band, you didn't really have a time to bed in, did you? It was just like whoosh. You're straight.
There was no time for reflections at all. It was just everything just out. Obviously, Lucknow became a mega hit and just went from strength to strength. And we were then engrossed with so many shows and everything. So it was just, all we ended up seeing in the end was cows and sheep. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
Cows and sheep, because we were on the motorway. And in fact, we were on the motorway so much and we spent a fortune on hiring vans. We ended up buying our own van because it was, it just made sense. Rather than hire it.
I remember speaking to Ninder about this, and he said it was such, it happened so fast. Looking back at it, probably didn't take it all in.
No.
And was it the same for you as well?
Yes, it was. I mean, for me, it was. I mean, I remember when Ninder and the rest of the band said, "Look, we need to now start looking at tracks. We need to start looking at, and this is how Panache was born." Where I had to go away and think about certain ideas, and then we'd sit down and then we would cross-pollinate, the ideas and all that kind of stuff, and obviously make them grow, and then sort of see which of our, things like that. And I think it was that was the time when I sort of sat down, kind of thing, really, and thought about something else, and thought about
make a second album
next thought about what are the tracks going to look like and what we're going to do. And if anything, there was a fear, Sat.
Exactly, this is what I was going to ask you.
There was a fear for me, because that was my primary role in the band as a vocalist, but also with the material as well. I mean, we shared it out, but in a lot of the cases, the first kernels of that idea was actually bought, even if we discuss something, like Ninder said, look, I think we ought to do this, I'd go away and try and make it into kind of some sort of a song, and, sort of spring the lyrics together, because obviously they got a rhyme and everything. So that's where I then went away, and in many ways, the band didn't see the kind of time I put into it, where I'd either sit with the Alpuri or other, lyricists, or even by myself, and just sort of say, okay, how can we do this? How can we, Toll Tax, was one of the things that we discussed as a band. It wasn't an idea that came from me. It was an idea which came from the band, because there was obviously toll tax was a big issue. And then it was almost like saying, off you go then, Vijay, right? Here's an idea
about toll tax.
Put something together, and then we'll have a look at it and see what we can do. Because obviously, these are really difficult ideas.
Yeah.
When you think about, Nachan Tappan de jare gaane lyrics, right? You could go to any writer. You could go any, and a lot of them, many times they just laughed at me. They said, "Yaar, Paji, tusi ki khichdi kol de ya, this is not the way you do things, na. Aha karla na, sort of Pabi nachdi and all this kind of, that's easier, man. Everyone does that." Don't worry about the toll tax business.
We've got loads of pubby songs.
And I think, much to his credit, the Alpuri was the only guy that I could sit down and actually go crazy with him. So if I bought an idea, it's like what Ninder said, that we didn't dismiss creativity, did we? No. We actually embraced it in many ways. And I think it was that embracement that actually made us what we are. But in the same sense, when I went to the Alpuri, he actually said, okay, is that what you want to do? Okay, so let's see how we can put things together. Even with Harganga, Harganga, how can we put Harganga together? The word Harganga, like they say, Hayurabba. But we didn't want to use that, so we decided to use Harganga, or when we say Vaheguru, oh Vaheguru, yaar, Bada Changa Kita, or we say Ram Ram. In India, they say that a lot, and it was coming up with something different, which is Harganga. So yeah.
So when you had these ideas and then went back to Ninder, were there some ideas, Ninder, you thought, what's this? Well, this is Vijay's the guy who came along and said, I want to put a rap at the beginning of a song. Did you think, I don't know what he's going to come out with?
Well, no. What would happen then is, certainly the earlier material, the first 3, 4, 5 albums. the material was put together with the band. So if Vijay came up with a lyrical and a melody, then we had to make sure that musically we could put that together.
Yeah.
And obviously then in rehearsals, not only would we be rehearsing our set, but would be putting together production ideas for the new album.
New stuff, right.
And that's why for the first 4 or 5 years, it really was a whirlwind, because not only we were trying to negotiate between doing shows, we were rehearsing 3 times a week and putting new material together. So when the idea and the concept comes, then you try and see if you can make some sense of it musically. And of course, not every idea, just as in life, not every idea works, but the majority do. And I suppose the fun factor, again, if you take Scooby-Dooby-Doo, the sort of the fun behind that, the fun behind door tax, and of course we got professional mimics to come in to mimic the voice of Margaret Thatcher, the ladies not for turning. So Queen. All these ideas, and of course, at that age and in that climate, actually risk was welcomed, because you weren't producing music for what you thought the market wanted. You were producing music that you thought they would like. So the risk was there, and we embraced the risk. And I think most ideas were put into place, and that's, I suppose, is one of the reasons we were successful. We took great risks.
I think also, Sat, one of the things is that when you take a risk collectively, it's not as bad when you individually, you take it on your shoulders.
We're gonna go down.
which I learned at that time, because a few times I did, and I was this kind of thing that once I dug my heel, and I'm not saying that this is the way to do things, I was quite adamant. And I think it took me time to learn that logic sometimes, does, you got to think things out. And, the thing is that you grab to an idea, but then you've got to know, and this comes with experience, is to let go of the idea as well, And sometimes the idea started somewhere else and ended up somewhere else, you know what I mean?
like the wedding track. Good grief, God.
Yeah. And it's, I think we did take the risk collectively, and that wasn't as bad as one person taking it on. So, but
So when that album came out, the second one, was it a relief because it was a success again?
I'll tell you what I think and I felt about the album. I remember we first performed in Nottingham. What was
the Black Orchid?
Yeah, the Black Orchid, and we started the first track, and just the place just erupted. It just went berserk, and that's when we knew that we had another hit album. There were songs in there that people just loved. And
of course the pressure is, you've had a hit song, and then everybody always says in music, in the music industry, can your second album match the first?
It's the difficult second album.
Always the difficult second album.
And they say, I mean, I remember the track as well. Jor deni geda gidde vich maar ja, ni jor deni, right? I remember that track, and sare log nache tu kyo khadi ek paase, that kind of thing, and then ta 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 ta, and that off, and people just went absolutely berserk, and you knew that it wasn't our previous success, it was the success of
because there wasn't songs like that.
No,
songs didn't sort of build up like that, did they?
No.
And that was the
I mean, there was a formula, and it still is, where you start off with the music and stuff, and then you go into the song, and then into the verse and into the song. But we tried to break that kind of
that's what I mean,
arrangement.
And
we played around with arrangements, and we said, well, who says? It's that kind of thing. It's like, and I love this band, Queen, with their Bohemian Rhapsody. They put a track together which went against the grain. Even the radio station said, we can't play it, it's too long. It's just not the norm. But now it's their signature track.
Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? Yeah.
Queen will always be known by Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
And I think in the same context will be known by Lakanu forever.
Yeah.
Lakanu is just something we will never be able to shift, because that's something that we, that's something that we, we gave birth to, and it's something that's been successful.
So,
And it goes from strength to strength. I think it was voted as one of the evergreen tracks of all time by BBC, wasn't it? Yes.
yeah, I think people still
So,
play it now. It still gets people dancing. So, then you had the other albums were coming out. Things were good. There's a good live scene. Everything's rosy. Achanak are well established as one of the best bands in the country. You're touring. Ninder, when did you start feeling a change in the industry? Was it collectively as a band, did you feel it? Or did you have a word with Vijay and said, hey, I think things are changing a bit here?
Well, it was interesting. We were at that point, so we're now into 1999 now. So we'd been going for 10 years, and we'd done the wedding circuit, we'd done the club circuit, and then I remember getting a call from the BBC, and they said, we got a big festival in Newcastle, would you like to come and perform? And I think I mentioned this to you before, and we were a bit sceptical because we were told the audience was non-Asian, and up to that, of course, the exposure we'd had was purely to Asian audiences. And then, of course, we performed, and then after we came off, there was a long queue of people waiting by the fence, and I was a bit curious. And I said, "What they waiting for?" And somebody said, "They're waiting for you. You know, you've been the band." I said, "Well, what do they want from us?" Yeah. And they said, "We think they want to buy some CDs."
Wow. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, fortunately, we had some CDs, and we sold quite a few CDs on the day. We thought, "Oh, this is a bit strange. Never having to sell CD at a gig."
And he wasn't aware of nothing of this before?
No, absolutely nothing of it before.
Nothing,
So
it was
nothing.
just...
Totally new. And then I think just coincidentally, we got a call a couple of weeks later from a festival in Wales. And they said, listen, we've got a big festival here, Friday night. Would like you to come and headline. We heard you at the BBC. Would you like to come and perform? Oh, crikey, it could be a bunch of drunken agricultural workers here. Is this going to work for us? We took the punt. We said fine. At this time, I knew we had to take some CDs.
Yeah.
So we took the...
Stocked up this time.
We stocked up. Took the CDs. Walked on the stage with some trepidation because, again, you know, alien audience. And lo and behold, the gig went like a bomb again. So we walked off, and there was that customary queue of people waiting for CDs. It doesn't take too long for the light bulb to come on.
Yeah.
And at that point, we remember sitting back in the van, and we said, you know something, we've done the circuit. I think it's time to move on. And it was apparent.
And I think they wanted to... Sorry, Ninder,
Yeah, no.
just stepping in. They wanted us to sign the CDs and, other stuff as well, which was really kind of, they wanted that personal touch. And I think at one stage, I don't know, was it that we forgot the tabla and we picked up the case with the CDs?
Such is the commercial nous we have. No, so it
We
was
had to go back and get the tabla.
it became apparent to us that not only was it a market development exercise, but actually for ourselves, we needed to do something different and move on. And so in 1999, we took an unprecedented step and decided to move into this new marketplace. In other words, playing the same material, but to a different audience.
Were other bands still playing around in the usual UK Indian market?
Yeah.
I think in many cases that they were oblivious to it. They actually didn't realise that the marketplace was changing. The perception of Bhangra amongst the community was changing, and they actually didn't feel the breeze until much later. Dare I say, and this actually come from my workplace, and Ninder will be quite sort of familiar with this, the sigmoid curve. We actually executed that brilliantly. Yeah, is that at what point before he actually dips do we actually then start another curve, isn't it? And I think this is where I think more so with Ninder than any of us in the band, he actually started the curve at the right place because you could misjudge it, if you see what I mean. And I think that, I will say Ninder executed that brilliantly. And I remember sitting in one of the houses with Ninder and me talking, and we actually, we were like that. And Amar was very, very little then. It was just me and Ninder sitting there, and and we were actually talking about the marketplace, how dire it had become, and I was very emotional because obviously, very quiet, and it was very difficult because there were words coming out, and I'm sure you remember, but it was all very emotional certainly from my side. And then I remember Ninder saying, well, there is one way we can do this, because we need to move forward. And that's where actually I will pinpoint the sigmoid curve started.
And I think you need courage to take that step, to move into a risk
It's not
strategy.
arrogance. I think a lot of people think that it's arrogance. Taking risks and all this is, I don't think it's that. I think you have to do that. And I think, like Ninder said, it's courage. You got to have that courage to sort of say, look, I'd rather go forward and do this, or just hang up my turban or whatever it is, or my hat, and say, that's it. And you've got to have this kind of do or die kind of,
Was there a point where you guys thought, you know what, I think we've had our time, let's just leave it now?
We never actually thought that. In fact, even when we were really emotional, we were talking about these things, we actually never used those words. We never thought of that. We really did think that we've got something to offer. We've never, ever disbelieved that. We've never suspended that from our belief system that we need to, that's it. Nobody wants us out there because it's not true.
And of course,
and
what had happened by this stage is we'd got heavily into Europe then. So we were now playing heavily. I mean, I can mention all the cities. That's where Omar got involved as well. We were now heavily performing in the mainstream market, and almost for us it was like, as you said, a second birth. So as we got out of a market where we were well established, we then started to put our brand into a totally different market. Right. So you're starting from scratch.
So that's when Ahmad got involved, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yep. So we got out, absolutely. So he was about 10 then, and
listen, if I go by history, sorry, Ninder. Regardless, Amar loves music. He was gonna get involved, even if Ninder actually said no. You don't, stay away.
Well, there was.
Let's bring you in.
Well, before, just to give you some context, we had a wedding. So back to the wedding days, and he was 3 years old then, and I want to get on stage. And he's like, so I tell you what I did. I went around the corner and I bought him a plastic guitar, and then I shoved the guitar on him and said, "Come on, then up you get." So he gets on stage. And of course, I pretend to put his wire into a speaker so he could hear himself, or at least he thought he could hear himself. So we started to play, and his face dropped, and the track finished, and he came up to me. He said,
"He was faking it then as well,
and he said, that's not working. I said, what's not working? He said, the guitar's not working. He said, I can't hear myself play.
I remember it.
And I thought, oh my! And then of course he sulked for the remainder of the
disappointment on Amar's little face. Yeah, was just amazing. I just felt so sorry for him, And
3 years old.
Obviously, he was only 3 years old, but yeah, Amar. I mean, he's sitting here and I'm talking about
Let's
Amar,
bring him in.
Yeah.
When was the first time you started realising that you're in a band? Was that at that point with the plastic guitar?
Well, I've always been.
Do you still have an issue with your dad about this?
Oh yeah, still have.
This is the place to really resolve it.
I still haven't forgiven him
on a show.
Still haven't forgiven him. Well, ever since I was about one, always been growing up with music in the house. Dad in the record label, various artists we would listen to, demo tapes. We'd always go to a band rehearsal. But I was always, listening to music. Really enjoyed it, but it was part of my life at that stage. It was just everywhere. It wasn't like I actively went to go and get it. But I remember I used to go on gigs quite often with the band. And I specifically remember this one. It was it Black Horse Festival?
Yeah.
I was about 8 years old, and I was like, oh, can I come along for the day? I'm bored. Right. It was a boring Saturday. I was like, can I come along? He was like, okay, but you've got to stay quiet, behave yourself. I was like, okay. So we got there, sound check, and I was like, okay, this is a regular gig. But this is when they'd gone to the more European side, to the more European market. Yeah. So I was used to seeing medleys, very weddings. I was used to all this. I was like, okay. But this is the first non-Asian gig that I went to. I was sat behind my dad as he was playing tabla. So the gig started, and this opened my eyes. The atmosphere you get. It was about 8 o'clock at night. It was a packed out festival, about a couple thousand people.
Yeah, about a couple
thousand people in the marquee. And the door player at that time walked on stage, and you got to remember, non-Asians have never heard a dole or a tabla. And I still remember, because how we start our live acts is with almost a instrumental introduction, and the Gore loved it, absolutely loved it. The dole starting, and I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah,
I want to be a part of this. I mean, I got goosebumps, like, and I was only 8 at the time. I remember I got back to my dad. I was like, Dad, I want to start learning. Please, I want to be part of the band. I'll get me a dole, a tabla right now. I want to start practicing.
And what did you think, Ninder? Did you think, oh God?
Well, I said, no, fine. And can I be honest with you? I didn't think he'd
Keep it
master
up.
Yeah. So we got him the door. I went through the usual thing, got him the door. And at school, he had an opportunity to play at the school. And he played, and all the kids loved him because he appeared to have this talent. I just thought, yeah, okay, he can play the obvious Johal. But suddenly over the next 2-3 weeks, he excelled beyond belief. In fact, within the year, because we got invited back to the same festival, we got invited back. So at the age of 9, he actually came on stage.
Right.
And played with the band. And of course you can imagine from an audience, a 9-year-old toddles onto stage. The doll's bigger than him.
Right.
But he's able to play it.
And he's plugged in, and there's sound.
And there's sound.
Plugged in this time.
Plugged in this time.
That's the first thing I will check. We're
not making that
Look,
mistake.
mate, you can have your tabla switched off, but I'm definitely...
Vijay's got a good heart. He can't take it. He can't see a young child suffer like this.
No. We actually looked after Omar apart from Dad sort of did his own thing, read his papers.
So I'm going to let Omar take it on. So he walks on stage, age 9, almost 10 years old, and played.
I think I think it's your environment, and people thrive in their environment, and obviously the key thing is that Ninder had a vision. Ninder's type of person. I knew this because I know him. That he wasn't, he would push Omar. If there's something that Omar wanted to do, I know that Ninder would give him the vehicle and push him, and sort of say to him, "Look, if you're gonna do it changi tarah, do it properly." You learn a lot on the road. People don't realize this.
Yeah.
Your master or your ustad is being on the road. It's an amazing experience, and you learn so much. And sometimes, people have asked me this question about the new talent coming up who've never actually performed live. I think they miss out on that side of things, where you learn so much about your artistry, and about how to manage your performance, how to do your singing, how to sing, because singing live on stage is different to the way you sing in the studio, kind of thing,
Yeah.
And
or in the shower,
that, that's totally different.
I am amazing in the shower.
Yeah.
I am.
Well, Lucknow.
Is that where it was born, right?
what was interesting was when
Is it a shower in this room? Can I just see it before I go?
Sorry? What?
So I remember when we got Omar, when he started playing, I said, look, I've got a gig ready for you, because I don't think you'll be ready. It's in August, and believe it or not, we're playing in front of the Pope. So I tell you what, you've got the door.
Right.
You give yourself about a year. You may be ready for the Pope. We'll see what happens. But his rate of progress...
The Pope may be ready for you.
Yeah. But his rate of progress was so dramatic that he was able to play, as I said, at that repeat gig. And I still remember him standing on the sideline. He looked cool as a cucumber. Although I thought, God, I hope he can do this. Because in rehearsal, you can do one thing. And then he walked onto stage, tottered onto stage with his door. And I did ask him afterwards, and I said, well, did you feel the panic? Suddenly 2,000-3,000 people in front of you. But I think at that age, kids have no fear.
Yeah, you just...
They have no fear. Is that right? Did you have fear?
Yeah. Do you remember it?
I still remember. My IQ used to come on about two tracks at that stage.
Yeah.
I used to come on as a second door player, because I was too young to lead it. And this track I used to come on was the 7th track into the set. Still remember on the side watching my dad. I was nervous. I was like,
so you were okay.
I was nervous.
You look cool as cool.
I think a lot of people. Can I just jump in? A lot of people actually ask me this. You know, are you nervous before you walk on stage? And you know, what are your thoughts before you go on stage? And I think I will reinforce what Amar has just said. It is really, and a lot of the artists, whether it's mainstream or in the Bhangra market, they will say that it's actually good to be nervous. Those few seconds are where you are nervous, and then it just goes. Yeah, and that's it.
So otherwise, you'd be too relaxed, wouldn't you? You could make mistakes then.
I think it you know, your adrenaline, it kicks your adrenaline more than anything.
You're nervous until you get on stage, and then you feel the love, the adrenaline, the buzz from the music. Yeah. Then that.
So you weren't going to do anything else, really, were you?
No,
there was no chance of anything.
No, it was that epiphany when I first saw that performance. Thought this is what I want to do.
So now So when did you officially become part of the band? You've done a few tracks at Medley and things like that. When did you think, actually, you know, he could just do it now?
Well, initially, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a bit of a marketing gimmick. The marketing gimmick was a little 10-year-old walks on armed with a big doll, plays on a couple of tracks, goes down like a storm, and then over the years, he started to take more and more the set. And about 3-4 years ago, maybe even longer now, 5 years, he now plays the entire set.
And Ninder says, "You're too old now, you got to go."
Oh, the cuteness factor's gone.
Yeah.
We need to hire another kid.
Your cuteology is... the point has gone the other way to zero.
Did you really
now.
put that, Ninder? I know Ninder's very calculated about I ain't working no more.
I still remember the day when
Either you walk on your knees and right off.
I still remember the day when I officially became a member, because before, when I was about 13, 14, I asked my dad, because he's giving me £5 as my salary. I was like, "Dad, how come what's everyone else getting paid?" Like, everyone else getting paid £5. I'm like, "Really? Everyone else getting paid £5?" He's like, "Yeah, everyone's getting. I'll pay you the most, actually. Everyone else gets £4.50." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, look, it doesn't make no sense. I'm not getting paid £5 here."
And then he turned around and smiled at me, and then
he gave me a little wink as well as he walked off.
Yeah.
And then it's only
always a businessman.
You can tell he's got his degree in accountancy.
Bottom line, Anna. Yeah. I think it was, I think, like you said, Sat, it was the whole thrust. You know, it's a wave, isn't it? And you ride that wave, that crest, that wave. And that's what we did. Yeah.
So when while you guys were touring around and playing at these venues, the UK market had thought you'd gone. Yeah? Achanak have gone. Yeah?
Well, Sat, what it was, just very quickly, they didn't see us at the normal thing.
That's what I mean.
You know, because what happened then was, because the market had sort of shrunk and the vocalists then started attaching themselves to DJs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And going to the weddings. So during the wedding circuit, you'd see the singer of the band or whatever performing with the DJ kind of thing, doing
you
a
left
PA.
at the right time with the curve, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, this is it. It's finding that right time. And I think because they didn't see us, a lot of them thought, wow, really good, brilliant live band, but they've gone now.
That's what people thought, yeah.
So that kind of stuff. So and we got that a lot, didn't we? Ninder? I got it so much. Wherever I go, just biah shadiyan or a wedding or, family. So, you were a really good band. We used to go and watch you and all this kind of stuff. I don't know why you packed in.
You think I just come back?
Looking around and thinking, I've just come off the plane, from from Germany doing a concert.
Yeah.
What's he talking about? And it was sort of, and that's when we thought that they actually think that we've given up, because they couldn't see. Because they couldn't see where we had gone, and then they were saying, "Acha, ote apne bande bhi aa." Then there was that, because they thought we had gone to Europe and we were predominantly playing to Asian audiences.
Don't forget, this is a time before the internet really took off.
Yeah,
so if you'd gone now, say, you would have YouTube and they'll see you in all these festivals around Europe.
That's right.
But at that time, you out of sight, out of mind.
That's right.
So when did the sort of seed come, or that passion come back to you guys for an album? When did you start thinking?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, just picking just the domestic issues. Quite funny when Vijay said people didn't understand what we were doing in Europe. you can imagine for him as a 10-year-old, he would go with us to Milan or Barcelona or Madrid, and then he used to come home and go to school on the Monday. So the kids would say, I've been playing on my Xbox. And he'd be
on
saying,
level 3.
Yeah, and he'd say, well, what have you done? Well, I've either been to Milan or Barcelona or Madrid, and completely what a 10-year-old wouldn't be expected to do. But like you said, I mean, back to your question, why the album? Well, it's quite an easy answer. Is the marketplace which we operate within are asking for an album,
Right.
and if you want to keep your exposed brand in the festival circuit, you need to be producing new
So
material.
this is the English white festival circuit,
Yep.
European
Yep.
market.
And of course, what you remember in this market, the Asian market, it's largely a single-driven market. But in the market we operate in, they're not into singles. They want a full album that they can indulge in and buy at a festival. You're not going to buy a single at a festival. You're going to want to be...
Where did your loyalties lie? Was it from the industry, the UK industry, or the European market?
Yeah.
Did you think, was it straight away, no, we're doing an album, there's no single?
I think, like Ninder has just mentioned, the marketplace we're in dictated that we do an album. And to be honest, we actually really enjoyed doing the album. We loved it. And I think the loyalty is to each other, and this is where we've actually lasted as long as we have, because we strategically think about things before we move ahead. We don't just do things like Sat you mentioned. All the way throughout Achanak's career, we've actually thought about things, even when there were times when we didn't have the capacity to think. We still, whether it was sitting on a park bench or somewhere, and then they'd say, "Oh, I don't know," because we throw so many scenarios do number crunching.
I think the loyalty is both the domestic market and the international market. And the reason behind that is the album is still pure Bhangra. So we're still producing what's in us and where we came from. So the loyalty is still to the UK. The music hasn't changed. The music is slightly altered to meet different tastes, but in essence, it's Bhangra music.
Yeah.
So
It's old
the loyalty,
school.
so loyalty.
That's the reason I asked, because you've let me listen to it.
Yep.
And it's a real honour,
And you're the first person that's listened to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. And you've listened to the entire album.
The official band for the British Asian podcast.
You've listened to the entire album, all the snippets.
Absolutely, and that's why I was asking you, because you're trying to play a very hard balancing game here.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think you've done it, because you've got a range of tracks here. You've got the Bhangra tracks and the Achanak sound, but you also have got this sort of dance sound as well.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
European club sound.
That's right.
I think the other thing is, when you do an album, it lends to creativity, because you've got 13 tracks or 12 tracks to do. When you've got only one track on a single,
exactly.
you know that you've got to go in a certain way, because you want that track to kick either on the dance floor or it's a slow listening, whatever you want to do. With an album, you can be a bit more creative, and that's why some of the tracks are creative, like Goryandi Nahi, Kalyandi Nahi, Duniya Hai Dil Walyandi, and that was just something to move away from the Bhangra market, sort of your Nach and Tappan, and actually reflect on life, which was really important. And I remember talking to Ninder on the phone, and I was standing in the kitchen. We were saying, there's so many tracks out there about Dole and all this kind of stuff, and very nice, very good tracks. Why don't we do something different? And we are, we've aged as people, and as you go through life, you gather that experience, then you reflect on things more. And I think it was just reflection as well on us, and the fact that the essence of life is that you've got to have your heart in whatever you do, and it's not about money, it's not about anything else, it's about you. I mean, we talk about this a lot now. We had a sound engineer that was with us for a very, very long time, Chris Aston, who passed away, and we now think about it, and we think, you go away, you work as hard as you do, but what for? That kind of thing.
Yeah, what's left,
and it's and that's where the track came from as well. It was about ke Duniya Goryandi Nahi, Kalyandi, but Dunya Hagi Dil Waliyan Di.
Yeah.
That it's the people that actually take the risks, and people that enjoy life, and I think it's the enjoyment of life.
So did the lyrics come from you, Vijay? Was you still writing all this time when you was touring around?
Yeah.
And so you're still doing...
Yeah. There's quite a few tracks which I've written on this album as well. And a few tracks which we've co-written with Dave Raj and, a couple of other writers.
So what about musically? Achanak had their sound. You could always hear a Achanak song. You always... And that quirkiness, and there's a few quirky songs in this album as well. And what about yourself? What did you bring to the table? Because there is a young element... I'm quite young as well.
Well, when we first started this project, I was final year of high school, so just doing my GCSEs.
How old are you? Sorry.
21 this year, just turned 21.
Oh, my God. 21.
So we started this project, I was about 16, 17?
16. He was 16.
Wow.
So on the album, I produced one of the first tracks on there, I was producing when I was 16. So when we first went to the studio, I was like, "Can I come along?" He was like, "Okay, you come along." And we were laying down the guide vocals. And I was like to him, "Dad, I think I can produce something to this." And he's like, originally he was going to outsource it. I was like, "No, I think I can do it." And then as talking to him, he said, "Yeah." Again, we had to produce our music for the market we were aiming for, and which was the non-Asian market. And me being
Remember,
a youngster,
this is where you grew up in.
yeah. So
that's the difference, right?
So I grew up not only listening to folk, Bhangra music, folk Punjab, but I also went to school and I would listen to mainstream music, a lot of what current trends are, electronic music. So when I was producing, I was able to combine the both.
And of course, having been on stage now for a decade with us,
Exactly.
he knew the kind of music that was working live, and was able to bring that input in.
And all them great bands you saw when you're touring.
Yeah. I mean,
it's all seeping in. You probably don't realise, what you're taking in.
I mean, to put it in perspective, it was Palio, which is a massive festival in Switzerland. So we just done our gig, and then as the final track's finishing, we just see loads of people disappearing. We're like, where are they going? So we finished our set. Then I walked off stage, see where they're all running off to, and then as I approached, it was Fatboy Slim on stage. So we were performing at the same festival as Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
And I got to see Fatboy Slim live. Well, he's a DJ, so it's not exactly live, but I got to see him in person. I was able not only to see our music, where our music comes from, but where I can also see, I can experience other music that people love. So when I was come to producing the album, I was thinking, we got the Bhangra standpoint, the talkies. I was thinking, what else can we add? Because when I listened to older Achanak stuff, it was very different. No track sounded the same as to now, and had its own electronic feel. So I was like, maybe we can bring that element back of almost being electronic. So I think nowadays a lot of people fall into the trap of just trying to keep it so traditional, so safe that you almost don't stand out. I was thinking maybe if we can go back to how it used to be, what music I grew up listening to, which is
but with a modern twist.
Yeah, making it stand out, a modern twist. Have our roots, but incorporate electronic. Because I'm a big electronic fan.
Yeah,
big into EDM music. So how can I fuse this so they don't get pigeonholed when we go abroad? Oh, they're just Bhangra. They're just ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Because
they always say we're a band from India.
Yeah. If you get pigeonholed as that, then you go to
Birmingham.
You get class as world music. But if you go too far,
right,
too electronic, you're not staying true to your core.
So are you seeing, all of you guys, are you seeing Achanak as a world band? You're not a Bhangra band. You're a band.
We're a band,
that just plays music that has Punjabi lyrics in it, maybe.
I think it's like Amr said, we don't pigeonhole ourselves too much.
I think the best way to look at it is not to judge it by genre, but by music. Yeah. I think that's a lot of what people do nowadays. Oh, I don't like this genre. I don't like rock and roll. I don't like the. You should look at music, not as pigeonhole it as a certain category.
Well, it's refreshing to hear a young guy speak like this.
Yeah, because a lot of people my age, I hate rock and roll, but if you listen to Led Zeppelin, who've really got into awesome. I listen to everything. You're able to almost have your own identity, make your own sound.
So you're in a perfect band, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
These guys, when you wasn't even here, that's what these guys were doing. You know,
Exactly.
they were so unique. At that time, I'm trying to tell you what the industry you probably know, but a lot of bands were unique.
Yeah, all
So
of them.
to be
Yeah.
even more unique was amazing. So, and that's what you want to bring the elements back in.
Yeah, and another from that era, you could when you listen to a you could know whose band it was.
Yeah.
Okay, but now you have to really listen until the vocal come in for you to realise who it is. Back then, you could just identify just by the intro who which band was
The
which.
first few chords and the sound.
I mean, now
and
you
that was
played it
yeah.
for me, and it was Achanak straight away. Vijay's vocals are so unique, and their memories came flooding back straight away, and that sound was there. Then you played the dance track, and it was fantastic. You know, and
I produced it on 16.
that's the one at 16.
That's when I was 16. So from being a percussionist, I had to teach myself chords. Because from only being a percussionist on stage, being a producer is a completely different ball game. A lot. It's easy to be okay. I'll outsource. I'll get someone to play the keyboard for me. I'll get someone to play this for me. I wanted everything to be original as like the band was. So I teach myself chords, how to structure things. So this album has also been a learning curve for me. As I've produced more, I've got stronger and stronger as a producer and as an artist.
So Vijay and Ninder, how was you guys comfortable? I was a young guy. Did you feel confident enough to give him reins to tracks and think?
I think for me, because I'm the vocalist, and I think there were times when I felt that the direction that Amar was taking is it actually going along the path of what the song is saying, and the whole melody and the feel of it. But I think us three, we tend to give an idea space to breathe, and I think that's what we did. We actually allowed it to breathe and actually see where it's going, and not to shoot it down in its infancy, and sort of see it sort of to flourish, and sort of say, look, does this really work, or it doesn't, or do we need to put another element in, or do we need to dismiss it?
I think the other issue was that, right, do we produce it internally or do we give it to a producer? The problem with giving it to a producer was they've never been on stage with us.
Yeah. So you did think about it.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
a producer would be producing blind, whereas Amar had been on stage with us for a decade, understood how the marketplace, understood how the crowds reacted to certain bits of our set. So therefore he was then able to bring his influences and his experience and bring it to us. So it wasn't actually a risk at all.
I think me as a vocalist, because obviously I'd rather work with Amar, who's part of the whole outfit, and
Exactly.
we've got that synergy, than work with an or outsource the track to.
It's the closest thing you're going to have to a young producer
Yeah.
who's going to know the Achanak sound inside out.
See when you go to producers, they'll produce for several artists, so you get the same sound as. So if I go to a producer, he'll produce for countless other artists. But I think by keeping it internal,
Yeah.
we get to develop our own
So
sound.
in a way, you two older guys are very lucky, really. You got a young guy with a fresh perspective who's not looking at the past, really. He's looking at what's happening now and thinking, actually, this works now.
This is what Ninder said. We give everyone 450. We'll give him 5.
I believe that for you.
But don't tell him that. Don't tell him that. And we can really get some fantastic music and tracks out of it.
Exploitation.
I think it was an extension of the way we've managed change over the years.
Yeah.
So this was just yet another change. And as long as you're comfortable with the change and have confidence in the change master, then you're fine. And of course, we weighed it all up and we were always going to benefit, because the other thing was, if when we got back from the studio at 12 o'clock, we played it, I could say straight to him, that don't sound right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is
And
the
then
difference,
next
right?
day you go in the studio, whereas you're going to have to talk to an outside somebody. And I don't think you can ever produce what you want if you outsource it.
Yeah.
Because now this is what, we talk about egos. Now this is where the ego does actually play a big part. And in many cases, quite rightly, because obviously they are producers in their own right. They've actually done a number of years, or they produced some hits in the past, and they think that they know best. And I think there is a bit of a clash there as well. When a producer walks away and starts making decisions about my vocals, now I personally don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
don't. Because at the end of the day, the band or us, we know what I think if anything, I don't mind working with people, but when someone says, "Look, you go away now. That's it. We've got enough takes. You go away.
Yeah, we've got your guide vocals.
We'll sort it out for you, and we'll get in touch."
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now you see what the kind of
So-
thing I'm talking about.
So the album's finished now.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from the reaction? Because Ninder puts a post up, or Vijay everyone's on you straight away. When's it coming out? When's it coming out? What's on the track? There's an anticipation that people.
Yeah. To be honest, we've had a really good response, and we've been.
You've been a bit shocked, thinking that people are still really eager for this.
Yes, and I think we did. I mean, this has been long sort of in waiting, where people have been asking, when is it out? When is it coming out? And in fact, one stage people were saying, that kind of thing. Yeah. So we actually just stopped talking about the date
Like an urban myth.
or the release. Yeah,
It's a Achanak release.
And I think, Sat, you're the only individual who's heard the album. You're the only individual who's actually seen the cover sleeve, so you know what it looks like. You're the only individual who's seen the first draft of the video. And I think hopefully you'll agree that all three elements are totally different to what's in the marketplace.
I can say this quite honestly. I'm not just saying because you're sitting there in front of me. There is nothing like it out there. Absolutely not. From the music, the cover. There's the video. I love the video. I'm not going to go into what I want to let people see it when they see it, but there is nothing like this. It's so fresh. I think for this sound to come out, and it's not Bhangra sound as it is in the UK. It's just a Achanak. That's what it comes out across like.
And I think the other complication, although it's a happy complication, is we were, I think a mistake on our behalf, we thought the only world we would now live in is a digital world, and so we never planned for a CD.
Yeah.
And when we started putting the date out, that's about 2-3 days ago, not only did we get Facebook entries, but people started to ring me and say, "By the way, can we place an order for the CD?" I said, "Pardon?" They said, "We need a CD." I said, "You're joking, you want a CD?" And then the panic set in, because it became obvious to us that there's a certain segment of the market that actually wants to see a cover sleeve, wants to be able to rip up the shrink wrap, open the CD up, and actually lovingly put the CD into a CD player and actually hear the pure sound. One guy rang me, he said, look. He said, "I'll demand a CD because when I'm in my car, I want to listen to a proper CD."
Yeah.
So that's now thrown a few things up in the air.
It's that nostalgia.
Yeah,
you guys, you're the band, right? But for us that listen to it, it's the nostalgia of having a Achanak CD in our hands after all these years, opening it up, putting it in, listening, but then reading about the album and
the tracks
and the numbers.
So what's that now done?
So we've never been on that side to sort of know.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's now happened is, oh God, people are going to kill me for it. We're going to have to slightly adjust the release date to accommodate the CD release, because it has to be synchronized. The two have to come out together. So we were originally planning it for the 15th of January, that's next week. But I think we'll know in the next couple of days. It'll be a couple of more weeks. But it just means that everybody gets what they want, and those who want digital get the digital, and those who have done my absolute head in over the last 48 hours get their CD at the same time that people get their digital. So we're going to have to bloody adjust the whole thing again. But
it's all about alignment.
It's all about alignment. But you know something? I'm more than happy to have that problem. More than happy, because it means there's a lot of people waiting for a proper CD.
There is a demand out for it. So, I mean, when it comes out, what's the plans for you guys? Are you?
Well, a couple of things. I'll jump in there. Well, firstly, actually, it's been a while, and it's been torturous getting the album done as well because of various other things, and we're very much looking forward to it for two reasons. Because for the first time, I suppose, we're hitting two markets. It'll be interesting to see how each market responds. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, on the back of it, obviously we'll be touring abroad, so we're very much looking forward to that. And thirdly, obviously this starts off the PR side, so we're going to have to get used to now just quickly getting on the road, particularly in the UK. We've done quite a bit of it abroad. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. We hope people think it's fresh. We think it's fresh,
Yes.
although it's taken us a while to put it together. And it's certainly a sound I can guarantee that you will have not heard before.
Yeah, I can vouch for that, definitely.
I think it'll
Vijay?
be nice. It will be very interesting to see how the tracks go down, and I'm sure Amar will agree as well of what people say. Look, it's all about, if you look at the analogy of a block of gold. Okay, a block of gold is just a block of gold. Nobody will say it's good. Nobody will say it's bad. It's just gold. Yeah, it holds its value, and there you go. Soon as you melt that block of gold or cube of gold into a necklace or some other ornament, then you invite criticism. Okay, then 5 people will say they like it, 10 people will say, oh, this could have been different, 10 will say, or 20 will say it's brilliant. So you invite that criticism, and I think that's what this whole thing is about. That it, like Ninder said, it'll be interesting to see the response of the two markets, but I think we'll sit back and we'll embrace it and sort of see how people receive it. And I think in some ways, for me personally, because obviously you sing the songs, you write the lyrics, and see how people, I mean, you're always going to get people that are going to judge, and they will judge. But
You a little bit nervous?
Yeah.
Yes.
You are?
Yeah.
You
of
nervous
course.
about your tracks, or just generally? 'cause
Just
this is
generally-
your first rodeo, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's you're gonna feel that, and then you say, look, I remember when Lakanu came out, yeah, and everyone, we were riding on a wave. Lakanu just was a world sort of hit in Bhangra, and people, and then this one girl actually came up to me, and this was at a festival, and she said, really good track, yeah, but I'm not a big fan of your voice, yeah. And something, I sulked for about 2-3 months. it really got to me, really got to me, because that was the first time. And she was really nice, and she apologized. And I saw her again at a festival. She apologized then as well. She said, I am so sorry, because the disappointment that she saw on my face. Because it's very this whole thing is personal to Ninder, Amar, and myself, and I think you are gonna sort of
The artist, man, you're sensitive people.
But then through experience, I realised that in the world, not everyone is gonna be 100%.
I can guarantee there's thousands of people that love your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't worry.
And I think, and I thought, you got to concentrate on the ones that sort of,
Yeah, there's no worries about that, Vijay. Right? Yeah. But for
I think,
you,
I think it was just the whole thing about criticism, and you've got to invite criticism, and you've got to be able to deal with it emotionally and just move on from it. I think if you haven't got the capacity to move on, then you just go round in circles.
So
And,
okay, look, we've come to the end. We'll go through each of you. Ahmed, anything you want to say to anyone listening? It's your first go at this, and what are your feelings towards it?
Well, I'd like to say to people, try and listen to the album, not expecting a typical Bhangra track. Don't expect that, we want to appreciate it for music, is what I'm going to say. Don't think of it as a Bhangra album, this album, just appreciate it as music.
Ninder?
Listen, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be enjoyable. I think in this increasingly interconnected global marketplace, I think the world's your oyster. And I'm looking forward to our CD and our music selling nationally, internationally, and hopefully seeing our music on films and synchronization licenses. So I see the entire gambit of opportunity available to us.
You would, mate.
Sorry?
You would.
and having spent the last 10, 15 years on the sort of mainstream circuit, listen, we've had some fantastic fun, played with some brilliant artists, and it's a journey. I think I'm fortunate. Amar won't know this, but Vijay and I enjoyed the genre when it was hot here. We enjoyed the journey. We enjoyed the good times then. And then we moved into another marketplace and enjoyed it again. So we started almost again another marketplace. And that was equally enjoyable.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think this is now the third phase. And I think for any artist, I think relevance is always important. And as long as you stay relevant and you produce music that people want, I think it's going to be a ball. I'm looking forward to it.
Vijay,
Well-
the last words to you.
Okay, right. It's an Achanak album. End of. I'm not going to say any more than it. It's an Achanak album. It's long coming. We've spent time crafting it, and really, it was through the experiences that we had in Europe, combined with all those, like Ninder said, experiences when Bhangra was really hot, and combining the two together, and again, creating that relevancy within the music that people will say, this is good, and we want this. And Sati, I will say this to you, that I am so much, and Amar will agree, and of course Ninder will as well, that we're so much looking forward to walking on stage and performing live.
And Sat, finally, thank you to you.
Yes.
And let me remind
Thank you.
you that carrot cake looks delicious. And I'm telling you one thing, let's put this mic down and get down to a cup of tea. and a carrot
Something,
cake.
I think we ought
What do you
to.
reckon?
Yeah,
That carrot cake is
absolutely.
just so alluring.
I don't
It's
know
just-
what's more of an honour, really. Vijay giving me cake and tea. I'm a fan, remember? That's the first thing I said to you. It has been a real honour speaking to Achanak, legendary Achanak, and the new wave of Achanak.
Thank you.
And it's been great meeting you as well.
You too.
Refreshing to hear a young guy speak about music in an entirely different way than a lot of other people at the moment. About the samples, and where you're looking at a live aspect to it. So I wish you guys all success.
Thank you.
Please let me know the dates it's coming out. We can sort of synchronise the show as well.
Yeah.
And since we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes, that might have to do a two-parter.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, part 1, part 2 in the week or something for the release. But we can sort that out.
Absolutely.
But I wish you all success.
Thank
and
you.
hopefully I'll see you on the live circuit somewhere, and I
Absolutely.
can jump on with my plastic guitar.
Yes.
I might if you plug me in, because I want to hear myself. All right. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that about wraps it all up today. I'll be releasing these SMT Classics periodically in this podcast feed. So if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review in your podcast app and follow me on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. But for now, thanks for listening. Take care.